passing through the depths of outer space.
Hello, I'm alive. I don't know what's going on.
By your command. Fascinating.
Damn you all to hell!
It's the Solo Sci-Fi Podcast.
Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Solo One Sci-Fi Podcast. And from New Jersey we have Tom, and from Portsmouth we have Doug. And
Hello.
I'm from London.
You're from London. How you doing, guys?
And from the deepest, darkest depths of outer space and time and space, the three of us are here again to troll the world of science fiction and pop culture.
Are we like sort of like Cyberdyne? We're kind of like come from the future to sort of come back to 2021 just to sort of piss people off, or is it? I don't know what.
You mean we come from some really shit post-apocalyptic?
Yeah, and we've
future.
come back to make the world, the future, even worse than it is already.
No, God, if I came from a shit post-apocalyptic future, I wouldn't come back to 2021.
I'd have gone back
Some
to
other time,
1988, me. That's what I'd have
like
gone back to.
1997 or something.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I'm not sure what year I choose, but yeah, maybe not 2021. All right, guys, nice to have you both on. We just to let people who follow us know, we're going to do things slightly different this week. We're going to do the subject first, and then we're going to do the news afterwards. Tom said this to me, and I think that I agree that basically, you know, when people check out the show, they want to see what the subject is in the thumbnail. So we're going to talk about all the news, although there's not much that I've seen my end, after we've done the actual subject, if that's okay with you guys. So shall we go straight into it, unless there's anything else you want to go in for actually go into it? Martin?
What is this week's subject?
Yeah. 2010, the year we made contact.
Oh, right, yeah, right. Mind mode on. I'm on now.
Okay, he switched on. He's tuned into FM. Brilliant. Okay, so basically, let's get the jingle and then we'll go for it. Here we go.
It's the Solar Sci-Fi Focus
Of the week.
All right, so a couple of months ago, we did 2001: Space Odyssey. I think this is. I don't know where Tom. It might have been before Tom was more of a regular co-host.
I didn't know there was a before me. You guys did things and knew
Well,
each other?
apparently, yes. We
That's
did
amazing.
a few. It is.
Wow.
And actually, it was interesting because Martin was telling me about all the different books that followed 2001, obviously 2010. And so this week, because we've done 2001, 2010 is an awesome sequel. And Tom was saying that you've read the books, and I know that Martin's seen them as well. So basically, what do you think of it? Let's start with Martin. What do you think of 2010?
I thought it was. It's a shame it's not recognised as a film. It's an exemplary sequel, and it also fills in all the weird shit in the other movie as well.
Yeah,
It
absolutely.
explains it all. It's a great explainer.
Now, let me first ask you, why do you think that the sequel was not as well recognised as the original? Either of you, what do you think about it, first of all? Before I ask Tom's opinion generally about the film, why was it not as big as 2001? Because it wasn't.
Is that for Martin or me?
Oh, whoever wants to say first. Sorry.
Yeah, I'll jump in. I think I have a pretty good handle on this. So 2001 was a cultural event. Like it was, no one had ever seen anything like it,
Right.
and it was so moving and intense and hypnotic that it was sort of like you watch that movie and it's like a fever dream to some
Right.
degree. You wake up and you're like, wow, that was pretty profound, and I've seen something unbelievable and amazing, and it's get all that the music and the design and everything that comes around it. And it's so slow, but it goes at its own pace. So 2010 is like, someone sitting down and logically explaining that fever dream to you and telling you and filling in all the details. So was it the same experience? It certainly wasn't the same experience. It was a much more conventional science fiction film, which oddly enough made it less accessible than the first film. Like the first film is highly inaccessible. If you describe it to someone, you're like,
Yes.
oh man, I don't want to watch a screensaver for 2 hours. Wars. That's But then the second film is very, very traditional, and to that effect, it is. I mean, it can't live up to its predecessor. This is no way it could, and I think it did the best it could to tell a new story in a cohesive way. I think if they had tried to remake or redo 2001 with the same style, but do it in 2010 without the concept of Kubrick being involved, I think it would have fallen on its face. I think somebody else trying to do that would have been a mess.
I
love it.
Are you surprised that there was quite a big gap between the first film and the second film? Because I think the first one was something like 1968, and then the second one was something like 1982, which is quite a big gap.
Yeah, it was 12 or 15 years.
Quite a long time. I mean, from a late 60s film, from an early 80s film, that in itself is quite a sort of significant change.
Right.
But right. It was very actually the actors who appeared in the second one. They still look very good, right. When they came back in this sort of more of ascended form, because obviously you see the monolith and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, I mean, I think it's an amazing film myself. I mean, it was a groundbreaking film, the same as Star Wars, although that's more fantasy, sci-fi fantasy. But it's funny because I think at the same year, it was around the same time as Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan was around. They were almost competing, and I've said a lot of people who I've sort of read, they've actually said that they preferred 2010 to The Wrath of Khan, which is considered one of Star Trek's greatest films. So right. It's just quite an interesting thing that most people are more aware of, say, probably Star Trek II than 2010, which is a strange thing because of what was actually put into the film.
Yeah. I mean, it's odd to say that someone would compare Wrath of Khan in 2010 as, they're sort of like apples and pineapples.
Yeah, they're not. Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Very, very, very different movies. Wrath of Khan is, it'll take all comers. It's a great classic film. In 2010, I think had maybe it was a weird time because the other types of films that were coming out of a sci-fi genre back then were really things like Predator and Alien and Aliens and movies like that were like the real high octane sort of
mainstream, more mainstream
guns and action, and this was a movie about 2010 is about exploration. It's about a bit of a profound nature of what life is in our galaxy and mysteries and things like that. I don't think I think it was a little bit of a not really there for its time. I could compare it to a little bit of The Arrival. That movie was it didn't have a big bad or anything like that. It was about the people going through it and experiencing what was going on. I
hadn't thought about that, but there are some parallels with The Arrival. Definitely. Now you say so. I don't know how successful The Arrival was, but it's it's less mainstream, isn't it?
Less mainstream. I know it's critically adored. I don't know I don't know how much money it made, but I love The Arrival. That's my type of jam. I just think it was a beautiful.
It's the defining film it's one of the defining movies of the decade, isn't it? The Arrival.
I agree. And
I've only ever seen The Arrival once. I need to see it again actually, but I did enjoy it. But sometimes you watch a film on the subsequent viewing and you actually get more out of it. For instance,
they bring Denis Villeneuve, put him on the map more or less.
Right.
After that, he did Blade Runner and then Dune. So it's
Tom's frozen. Are you still there, Martin?
Yeah, I'm still here. Yeah,
Tom's frozen for a second. Yes, well, let's see if he connects in a second. But I mean, it's funny with 2010 because I don't know if it was that successful a film either.
The problem with Paul 2010 is a masterpiece of a movie, but after the 2001. Which was, my God, it was just an exemplary piece. It matured science fiction. It took science fiction to a whole new level.
Yeah.
It opened the door. And how can you get a sequel as good as that? But a lot of people prefer the sequel to the first one.
Yeah, it's strangely because actually I think Tom's completely gone now, so I'll try and see if we can get him back in a minute. I'll send him another invite. But the fact of the matter is that are you surprised there wasn't a sequel to 2010, or do you think that's partly because
I am surprised actually. There was rumours that we're going to do the 3001.
right?
They weren't going to do 2060 because 2060 is a bit of a it's a bit of a damp squid as a story.
Yeah, actually, I think Tom's coming back now. I think
Has Tom read the books? Has he read the?
I think so. Tom said he's coming back on now, so we should have him back any second. He's just connecting now. Here he goes.
Hey, how
Hi
you doing,
Tom,
guys?
sorry about
you're
that.
back.
We were just
Hey.
asking. So you read all the books, have you?
I have. I've read all the books.
Yeah, I have.
Yep.
Well, what did you make because Michael were on about a sequel to 2010. Did you read 2060? That was a bit of a damp squid, the story for that with the big diamond.
Yeah, I did read
going
that.
to the
I did
car,
read the
yeah.
2061. I read 3001. I read them all.
Yeah.
And they sort of peter out for me as far as their impact over the next goes. But yeah, I did read them all.
Yeah, because in the fourth one, he's still alive. He got frozen in space, wasn't he?
Yeah,
is it Frank Poole? Is it?
Yeah, they collect that guy.
David Poole,
The guy that gets thrown off of Discovery and ends up freezing. They find him and collect him and basically bring him back, which was I remember thinking that was a little silly, to be honest. That's what they did. They could have used somebody else or figured something else out. But overall, I mean, I read that book. I read 3001 in probably like 6 hours. I just sat down. And read
It didn't take me. I got through it in the night.
Yeah, I enjoyed it very, very much. But when it left me at the end, I was like, they basically gave the monoliths a virus or something, and
yeah, they did.
and it was like, meh, okay.
Well, when the monolith sent the signal, I think it were in one of the signals it sent, it was to eradicate mankind, wasn't it?
Yeah,
because they'd failed the experiment apparently.
Something like that.
Yeah.
But for me, that's not what I wanted it to do. I kind of wanted the end of it to be a transformation of us and our place in the universe, which is what I got after 2010. I was like, that left me feeling like we moved into a new transformed solar system with Jupiter as a new
It's
sun.
a sort of sun, and it sort of has an effect on humanity. Plus this, I think is it Europa they were supposed to stay away from, the actual message?
Yeah, all these worlds are yours
Except Europa. Yeah. I mean, I've not actually read the books. Were the two movie adaptations of the respective films quite close to the books in their content?
Well, the aliens in the later books, they've moved on, and it's just the monolith running the show, from what I remember reading.
Yeah.
They've either died out or gone to an even higher plane of existence. They've moved on, but the experiment's still continuing.
Right.
That's what I remember reading. But then they've on the moon in the fourth book, they had a bunker with all the deadliest weapons mankind had ever created.
Right.
There were no more wars than that. But they had this virus there. It was so dangerous for a computer. They uploaded it into a monolith, and it shut the whole network down.
Yeah. I actually would be fascinated to see some new either TV or movie adaptation of the entire series.
I could see the third book being made for TV.
Right.
I could see, because that was about these greedy people that crash on this planet with Floyd, because he's still alive because of the radiation. He hadn't aged.
Right.
And there's some of a big diamond that's going into the centre of Europa to create a core or something. And this greedy billionaire who's got a space yacht, he wants it.
It's
something
neat.
like that. From what you don't get to see them that live on that planet, them you hear about them, but you never see them. That evolved life. You remember the end of 2010? See them huts.
Yeah,
and
I think 2061. They do reference sort of primitive creatures of some sort, but not. It's not like a profound. They're more like little, otters or something. It's not anything profound.
In the film, Dan, they built a hut or something at the end. When you see the monolith and the music kicks in.
Do they? Oh, I didn't see.
I
that.
didn't see
at the end of
huts.
2010. Yeah, there's some huts in there.
Maybe, and that's kind of it. That's what you see in 2061. It's like these little little guys. that
What
live in
scene
there.
is that? Because I've seen 2010 a lot of times. I don't remember seeing
So the very end
huts.
when they pan over Europa and the stars in the sky and they have the monolith sitting there in the swamp.
Right.
Martin saying is that there's huts visible. I
I've
don't
not seen that. I don't remember seeing that myself. I mean, maybe I just not spotted it.
Maybe. Hey,
go on.
Did you guys talk about my Wi-Fi phased out? Did you talk about the cast of 2010 at all?
I was about to bring that up.
No,
I mean,
not yet. No, not yet.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. Let's
because
talk
the
about
cast was, I mean, obviously had Roy Scheider, who was really good.
Excellent.
Helen Mirren was the Russian. And I thought okay, Tom, you brought this up. What did
John
you think of the
Lithgow.
cast? John Lithgow, yes. Tom, what did you think about the cast? I think you might have dropped out again. Let's ask you, Martin, while he's this is like a blooper. God, this might be added to the bloopers. Martin,
I thought
what
the
did you
cast.
think of
I liked the computer guy.
Oh, the
Created
guy with the
Al.
glasses.
There's
He created Sound 9000 as well as Al. He was good.
And there's that scene where he like activates his creation. There's like a moment that he's a god. You know that he's like when when he's got his hands like that and he activates and he's just so in love with it, isn't he?
Yeah,
you
that's
know?
it.
I love that scene.
But he's very arrogant, isn't he, the inventor? I mean, what I liked about it was at the end, what was to me, because like I said, I've not seen the books, I'm more of a movie. I should read more, but I just never seem to get around to it. What I liked about it was that, of course, the main threat from 2001 was Hal. And of course, at the sort of end of 2010, you come to a point where they're worried that Hal is going to do exactly the same as he did before. Actually, Tom's back again. And of course, this time,
you're back.
This time, Hal was the computer who was not evil. He basically, the whole aspect of 2001 was that he had contradictory information. And he didn't quite know what to do, and this is why he went to this weird tangent. And what I liked about 2010 was that he had there's a possibility of a similar malfunction, but of course in that film he wasn't. He sort of said to the science that his inventor, "Go, you can continue with the mission." And I just like that. I just like the way that the fact is that you looked at the first film and you realised that it went crazy because of contradictory information. I just thought it was very well done.
I have to ask a question to you both.
What's that?
Go.
Did you jump at the scene when is it Dave Bowman, when Hal says to Roy Scheider, "Look
Turn
behind
around.
you."
Oh my God!
You jump.
Yes.
Even now, I still jump. Every time I prepare myself, and it gets me every time.
And he just turns around. Yeah, that was
Dr.
freaky.
Floyd, can you look behind you? And he's just stood there, Dave Bowman. That just first time I saw that, I jumped out of my chair. Did you?
Yeah,
I did, and he didn't look any
That's
different.
terrific.
The actor hadn't aged much at all from 1968, and he was back, and of course he was like not ascended, but he was just more sort of not just Dave Bowman. I just loved that. I thought that was so clever.
Did you like the scene where his spirit went to? Well, he's whatever he was. He went to Earth and he was combing in his mother's hair and all that.
Yeah, that was neat.
It was like a probe, wasn't it? It was like a probe or something.
Yeah, they had like and I liked the way they modulated his voice. So because she's like looking at the TV or something, and then you hear this voice, and it's sort of like they muck about with a flanger on. It was really neat.
I think Roy Scheider, what he did, like the first Dr. Floyd in the first one, the people were quite cold in the first movie. There wasn't a lot of feeling, was it? It was all quite
it was more just getting on with it.
Yeah, even on that space station at the beginning, everybody, and there were no emotion or warmth. But in this film, Roy Scheider, he really brought, like, he gave Dr. Floyd that personality in this, that he was a person.
Right, and I think they also brought that to the rest of the crew. When the guy that John Lithgow befriends, the Russian guy.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he gets blown away like by the monolith. He's out on a probe, and it basically kills him. You could see how affected everybody is by that, even though that they were technically rivals, and how they came together overall and whatnot. I thought that was really
actually
the cast is incredible.
This actually, we're going to go on a little bit in the news, but I will say very briefly that this element of in space with the Russians and of course the USA is the same as For All Mankind. There are some parallels, especially after seeing this series, which I know Martin's not seen yet. So I
I'm starting this.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that in a minute. But yeah, I just wanted to say that there is a parallel between that and the way I've seen it with that respective series as well. Yeah, it certainly is a classic, and it just makes me. I think it would have been. I mean, do you remember like Star Trek: The Motion Picture? It had a similar, more sci-fi based story, wasn't it? A lot of people. Star Trek: The Motion Picture, I think, has gone up in estimation compared to when it was first. But it's quite a proper sci-fi series with Vija and everything. And I think it was partly inspired from 2001. I think it's some of the story, the way it was actually came across. And 2010, of course, was a good sequel. But I think the element, same with the Arrival, is that a more sort of pure sci-fi story is probably going to get less attention because it's a little bit off mainstream. So that's one thing that makes me wonder whether it would ever be made again.
Would you, like we were saying about The Arrival, what about Interstellar? Do you think that were inspired by any of this?
If you're asking me, yeah, I could see that. What about you, Tom? What do you think about
Interstellar? I do agree. I do think that if you had to put a movie like Interstellar into a bucket, it is in that sort of 2001 like mystical space stuff in 2001.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But it's certainly interesting how, like I said, for a film with such a big gap, I think he did very, very well. I'm still surprised, like I've already said, that 3010, whatever it was going to be, has never been made.
I don't think the book was done till a few years later.
Oh, wasn't it?
Yeah,
when were the books made? Was there a gap between?
The first book was done in the early 60s, I think.
Okay.
The first book, I think it was. But I don't think 2010 come out until like late 70s.
So then maybe that's why there's a big gap between the actual film adaptation.
Probably.
Yeah. Well, I think tastes have changed a lot. In order to take a property like this and make it into a television or movie, the whole thing, all of it, could probably fit into, or would best be done on television nowadays. Now with the way that things.
They were going to do Sci-Fi Channel when it was Sci-Fi Channel. They were going to finance a TV movie of 3001, but they went with the other Arthur C. Clarke story where these demons turn up on Earth.
Right.
The children evolve.
Yeah.
I only saw it once. It was like a mini-series to finance that instead. That was one of his books as well. I've never read the books to that, but I did see the mini-series.
Has anything from Arthur C. Clarke really been beyond 2001 successfully and enthusiastically adapted?
Not that I'm aware of.
That mini-series? No, I don't think so.
Yeah, because he's
well, he had the series in the 70s, Arthur C. Clarke's Mysterious World.
I remember that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But could you? It'd be pretty cool to imagine, like, not. Like the events in the world of 2001 like made into a new like a new series where kind of like what was it Lovecraft Country, where it's sort of themes from there, so you don't literally take everything that happened in each and every book, but you sort of take the world that it builds, because it should kind of build a new world around.
I read these Rama series of books. They've been like up for adaptation for years, but they've never been done.
Yeah,
and I'm a big fan of Rama series.
Yeah, those are good. Those get really long. There's probably like 5,000 pages of Rama series material that they did, and at the end of the day, I think, what was the conclusion of that was like God doing an experiment or something to the
it's the ship that comes in. It's basically Michael, it's the ship that comes in the solar system,
right?
And they got to send a mission out. At first one, the ship's ginormous. It's like a world ship inside. And then I think there's another ship comes after that one when it leaves the solar system, and it's about the people that get on board. There's life forms aboard. I've read it in years, but it's a really good.
Sounds interesting. Sounds like a good concept.
Yeah, it's very. Imagine it's like in the voyage home, like that big thing that comes up.
Oh, the cylinder, the probe, the probe.
Yeah, it's shaped sort of like that. If you can imagine it, but it's a spinning cylinder, so it's got gravity on the inside.
Right.
It certainly absolutely inspired me. Arthur C. Clarke definitely inspired me.
I think they could pull off the 2 final books now.
Right.
I think they could be done, but it's. I think you could get away with them on a very expensive Netflix sort of budget.
Right.
But like you said, the first 2 movies, like the first one is a masterpiece. But a lot of people don't like the first movie as well.
But yeah, I mean, they can. Yeah. So let me say one thing. So the books, like the book 2001, which was written in parallel with the film, it is not a fever dream of a book. You're not like reading it like poetry and limericks and stuff. Like it's not like you're imagining the film in your head. It's a traditionally written film, book, right. And it's got and it's kind of explaining what's going on, and it explains what's happening with the apes, blah blah blah. It's not an enigma or in any way confusing. It tells you what's happening. Yeah. And the same thing for 2010. So that really is the books, the source material is clear.
I think Tom's gone again. Oh dear, don't mean that. But yeah, I think it is. Like I said, it's quite sort of clear as to how the movies were influenced by the books. So maybe you know how certain books are much harder to adapt into a sort of film-based project.
How many films follow? How many screenplays follow the actual book? It's very few.
I don't know. I was going to say if it's
there's a lot of films. Few. There's a lot of films that they take aspects of the book out.
Yeah.
But they don't follow it totally. They put their own spin into it, don't they?
Well, like I said, I think there is definitely a window to remake the 2001 series of books and actually finish it. I'd love to see some adaptation where there's actually there.
Well, it is funny. I mean, there is a couple of flaws in it because, like, apparently, Dave Bowman travels through that warp thing.
Yeah.
And then when they send a radio frequency, it works at rules of the universe that it takes thousands of years for the radio signal from the monolith to get to this computer. Yeah, it don't make sense. Why wouldn't it send a signal through the warp thing? And then it decides to get rid of human race,
In most sci-fi, there's always some glitch of something where it can be explained. I mean, I watched the episode of Stargate SG-1, the episode where it goes round in a loop. It's like a Groundhog Day episode.
Oh, yep.
And there's one scene where they try to dial the Stargate to stop it from dialing back in and causing the loop. And later on they say, we can't dial out apart from this set of planets. So I thought, why don't they just dial one of the planets, which they've worked out they can still dial, and then they would have stopped the loop. It's like everything in sci-fi. You can normally, if you're like a nerd like me, you're trying to reason away. You've got to work out, hang on, if they did that and did that, then it would have worked. So everything, there's probably not one or very few sci-fi adaptations or books or anything where it's pretty much flawless and you can't kind of look at plot holes and ways of getting out of it. It's just the nature of, not just science fiction, it's like it in general in TV and stuff like that. So I don't know, it's a strange one. So I don't know if Tom's coming back, so let's just continue with the two of us. But I would say that there definitely are classic films, the first two. I'm glad that 2010 was made. It was certainly an interesting change to the first one, but the continuity, of course, is perfect. I love seeing the Discovery again, but it was all kind of covered in sulfur and spinning around Jupiter. I love all that as a ship guy.
My dad took me to see it.
You saw it in cinema properly?
Yeah,
I'd like to have seen it.
In the 70s, my dad took me as a kid. I went to see my dad for a week because I used to go at weekends, and he took me. And he wasn't really into science fiction, but he thought it was a space Star Wars type movie. He came out of that cinema and he was like, I said, what? I said to him, well, what happened? And he's like, shut up.
It's funny with science fiction because I've got some people I like to go on about it. and they just don't get it. They just don't
No,
understand. It's
no.
just like me in the football and soccer, and how I just don't get it. You know, like this week we're going on about some European thing, and and I thought to myself,
so what?
okay,
Yeah.
What the hell?
It
I don't
doesn't affect
care.
me.
I know, and I thought to myself, this is the headline. What about people dying in India and COVID and stuff like that? I mean, to me, it's again, it's just because, like me, with the shutter comes down with soccer, like people do with sci-fi. So, but yeah, to finish off, I want to say it's a very, very good film. I was very surprised about it. My Wi-Fi's back, so Tom's. Let me just see if he can.
Is Tom back?
He says my Wi-Fi's back. Can you? What's he saying? But if you'd like, rather I disrupt the pod. No, I'll just say it's okay. It's fine to rejoin. Just give me a second, folks. To rejoin.
Have you got any sci-fi news?
Well, no, we're going to finish off this now, and let's just wait for. Actually, what we'll do is, actually, he's back there now. He was there.
I haven't got any news.
Yeah, I'd say. I mean,
there hasn't been much about.
No, well, let's go into the news, which is going to be short, and then we'll see where we go from there. So we'll be right back. Just a second. Hit the jingle. I don't know what I'm talking about tonight. It's like I've had 2 weeks off. I've had 2 weeks off, and I'm completely getting thrown. I've been doing this for a year and a half nearly with you. Right, we'll be right back. Right. Okay.
Let's get focused. The show must go on.
The show must go on. Here we go.
Yes.
Right.
Working. So in the sci-fi
News.
Right, we had an unfortunate technical issue after we've just talked about 2010, where the recording with Martin and Tom dropped out, the second part. So I'm going to sort of finish off sort of quickly, just to say, give a couple of quick things on the news, which might be of interest. First of all, we've heard that Star Trek Strange New Worlds has almost finished making its pilot. Although apparently there was some sort of outbreak or something, so it means the production was halted, at least part of the production, but apparently they're still able to work on the actual pilot and not be too affected. Unfortunately, there's not been a lot of news this week anyway. Generally, it's been quite a quiet week. There's a few things going on in Marvel, which Martin was talking about, but unfortunately we've lost him, so I can't actually confirm any more things about that. But yeah, it's been a quiet week, but like I said, it's all sort of, hopefully we'll get a bit more interesting soon with Picard. A couple of things with Picard. Apparently everyone was excited because Michael Dorn said he was going to be returning to the Star Trek universe, and of course we were thinking that he was going to be on that series, and it turns out that that's not the case. It was something to do with an advert. So Martin and Tom were obviously disappointed about that, although we have heard that LeVar Burton is going to, he's likely to return to Star Trek in some form, probably as Geordi in Picard again, although he has said that he would only do something like a cameo kind of thing like he did in Voyager. He won't be like a series regular, which, it's a shame, but you can understand that. And that's pretty much it. There's not much going on. It's sort of like a time where production and things is slowly getting back to not normality, but more of a regular kind of thing. But there's a bit of a void. Tom said that he's looking forward to seeing the last For All Mankind, which is released this week. So we're going to say that we're probably going to be releasing that review of that show in the next couple of weeks. Martin still needs to see it as well, so hopefully once he's seen that, we can have a review of that. That's going to be fun, and obviously we'll do that. Next week we'll probably be reviewing Star Trek, the original series, because it's one of the Star Treks we have done. That's not going to be hard to talk about that, because there's something to talk about in that series. Favourite episodes, and the rest will be good. And that's pretty much it. So it's very good of Tom and Martin to join me. It's a shame that they're not here for the last part of the show. It happens. I recorded it on Zoom. It was supposed to save it, and I looked at the hard drive and it's not there. So unfortunately, but the main topic has been discussed, and it was a good film. So further to the topic of 2010, and especially its predecessor 2001, this is something funny I came across, where somebody has got orchestra, just the image of the orchestra doing 2001 The Space Odyssey theme. But what somebody else has done is there's this terrible school choir where they couldn't play the song very well, and they've mixed the image and the video together. It's very funny, and I think it's well worth a share. So sorry for the slight change in the end of the show, but we will probably be continuing to have the news after the main focus of the week. I think that works better, especially when we look at the thumbnails and stuff like that. So thank you for joining me. We'll catch you next week on the Solo One Sci-Fi podcast, and live long and prosper. Enjoy this weird musical ending. Bye.